Welcome to the Painter's Dialectic Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Green, an artist and art educator living in New York City. And today we have our next Artist-Errant event, our spiritual friends group, our meditative art group. We'll be exploring the theme of basic sanity today on June 22nd, 2025 from 12 to 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So, in these tumultuous times when fear and uncertainty seem to fill the air, how can we remain grounded, positive, and clear headed enough to accomplish what needs to be done? This is the central question we'll explore today, and we're honored to welcome today Rheam El Ruby, our guest speaker, a child psychologist, clinical counselor, and Sufi mystic. Rheam brings a rare blend of psychological insight and spiritual wisdom to help us understand how to care for both the inner and outer dimensions of our life during these periods of instability. All right. Welcome, everyone, once again to the Spiritual Friends Meditative Art Group. Um, for those of you who are listening, are new to the podcast, um, this group is run by Artist-Errant.com. It is an esoteric art school. I teach classical painting methods and esoteric philosophy. And we have this group event each month, the Spiritual Friends Meditative Group. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Josh Green. I'm an artist, an educator, and meditation instructor. I was certified to teach meditation through Tibet House and Dharma Moon here in Manhattan. I'm also doing teacher training through the for Hermetic Studies in Western traditions. And I'm certified to teach art through the MFA program, Alfred Dusseldorf Painting through Alfred University. And we're honored to have our special guest, Rheam El Ruby. She's our guest speaker. She's a child psychologist, a clinical counselor, and a Sufi mystic. So Rheam brings a rare blend of psychological insight and spiritual wisdom to help us understand how to care for both our inner and outer dimensions of our life during these periods of instability. So say hi, Rheam.
Hi. Hello. So good to be here. Thank you for having me, Josh.
Yeah. And I'm glad you got to be here in person. We actually found parking.
Yeah, that's right.
And here's Artist-Errant.com. So the Spiritual Friends group is there if you'd like to sign up. And we also have online drawing programs. So if you want to advance your drawing abilities, I have these courses. Ron just started the fundamentals of drawing, and Rosalie did bark drawing in person at Alfred University. So the joys of bark drawing. Um, so our group is partnering up with the Institute for Hermetic Studies, and every month we're going to try to raise donations to help the IHS collection. This is at the Weinberg Memorial Library at the University of Scranton. So this collection is an effort to preserve esoteric wisdom for future generations. The founder of the Institute for Hermetic Studies is Mark Stavish, and he has generations of esoteric books. Some of them aren't books, it's just papers that have been passed down through different esoteric orders. He has 50 feet of Tibetan Buddhism, and a lot of these books you cannot find anywhere. So by putting these into the public library system, that knowledge will become public domain, and people in America will be able to do interlibrary loans to get these rare books. So I think it's very important to get these, so instead of being sold at some garage sale and who knows what'll happen to them, they'll be preserved and protected by the University of Scranton for years to come. And all of our classes that we're doing are founded on esoteric wisdom. Okay, so be sure to click the link in the chat. I'll also add it in the podcast descriptions and make a donation that is manageable for you. And if you'd like to turn that into a spiritual practice, some traditions, when they give, even if it's just $1, you visualize all this wealth going to that organization. and then how it's going to benefit all the future generations, all these beings being affected. You can visualize that going out to the future. Okay. And so our schedule, I'm going to do my little presentation for 15 minutes as usual, laying the philosophical ground for today. Then we'll do a guided meditation. And today we won't be doing art because we have Rheam here and we want to give her all the time necessary to comment on these ideas and give us a psychological perspective and the Sufi perspective. All right. So maybe many of you recognize this painting. This is by William Turner. It is The Slave Ship. It was painted in 1840. So in these tumultuous times, when fear and uncertainty seem to fill the air, how can we remain grounded? How can we remain positive? How can we remain clear-headed enough to accomplish what needs to be done? You know, America entered war yesterday with Iran, another war in the Middle East. How can we stay clear-headed and grounded? This is a central question that we'll explore today. What is basic sanity, and how can I maintain it? So I've asked Reem to start us off with a Sufi poem. So she'll read it in the original language, and then she'll translate that for us and give us a little explanation. So Reem, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So, what I am going to say is called Surat al-Duha, which is actually from the Quran. It was so the Quran, for those of you who don't know, was kind of spoken to Muhammad by the Prophet Muhammad by the angel Gabriel. And Muhammad himself was illiterate. He did not know how to read or write, but he memorized them as they came, all these different chapters. And so there was a period of time where no chapters were revealed to him, and he was beginning to worry, and he was getting quite depressed. And as many of us do, we begin to question ourselves, and why are things not going the way I would like them to go? Is this my fault? Did I do something wrong? Is God upset with me? And so this surah is what we call the chapters in the Quran, and it's short. This explains basically to Muhammad how to deal with the anxiety and depression. He used to suffer with anxiety and depression for most of his life. He was an orphan himself, and he dealt with a great deal of loss. So this explains to him how to cope in this difficult time. And it's called Surat al-Duha, which means just before the heat of the day occurs. It's called Duha in Arabic. And that's it right about now, actually, here in New York. And so it's kind of aptly named. So in Arabic, I'm going to say it, and then I'm going to say the translation in English. So, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث. So that I just memorized actually in the past year because it was something that brought me a great deal of peace. And then I recognized as a psychologist, it has all of the elements within it that we talk about when we talk about healing anxiety and depression. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is pretty incredible. So the translation is by the glorious morning light and by the night when it covers the world with peace. Your Lord has not forsaken you, nor is he displeased. Indeed, what is to come will be better for you than what has gone by. The Lord is sure to give you so much that you will be well pleased. Did he not find you an orphan and give you refuge? And did he not find you lost and guide you? And did he not find you poor and provide you? So as for the orphan, do not oppress. And as for those who ask, don't send them away. And as for the blessings of your Lord, proclaim them. So the last 3 points are actually exactly the three things that we know that help when we have depression, anxiety, when something is kind of eating away at us. Um, One here is, so as for the orphan, do not oppress them. So basically, when you find people who are going through difficulty, provide for them, give to them, don't oppress them, help them out. And we know in psychology, one of the best ways to deal with depression, and I'll say this to clients, is volunteer, give your time, give charity, give money, give to the IHS for in order to provide learning opportunities for people in the future. Um, Give food, your time. The next piece is so for those who ask, don't send them away. Many of us who have had anxiety and depression, which I have suffered with myself in the past, I often found that when people came to me and would say, "Are you okay?" I would push them away. I would cancel social plans. I would kind of stay, cocooned. And this is basically saying, don't do that. Allow them to come in, speak to them. Because what's interesting about depression and anxiety is they're both very self preserving disorders. They will almost by the symptoms force you to continue to feel that way. When you are feeling depressed and someone gives you an option, like, why don't you come out with me? Let's go hang out. You say, no, no, I can't. I can't be seen out. I need to stay inside. Well, actually, the best thing for you is to go out, is to leave that situation. Then, besides that, the last one is, and as for the blessings of your Lord, proclaim them. That's something that we know, having a gratitude practice, counting your blessings, saying what it is that you're grateful for, even finding the blessings during these difficult times. One of the things that we will tell people to do when they're struggling is we call it the rule of five. Think of 5 things that you can see. We go through the senses. 4 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can smell, um, 2 things that you can touch, and 1 thing that you can taste. And so it takes you through your senses. And when you're doing that, you become present, you become in the moment as opposed to thinking in the future or in the past. And that's something that um, Lao Tzu had said, if you're anxious, it's because you're in the future. If you're depressed, it's because you're in the past. And if you're happy and joyous, it's because you're in the now. And the only state in which we can be happy is if we're in the present. We can never experience true joy if we're thinking about the future or the past. It doesn't happen that way. So being present, really, really important.
Thank you, Rheem. So I wanted to share with you this very special photo. This is from the Christmas truce of 1914. It is an extraordinary moment of humanity amidst the horrors of World War I, when the British and German soldiers laid down their arms and met in a no man's land to exchange greetings, share small gifts, and in some accounts, play a game of soccer. So in the letters from General Walter Congreve, he describes the scene as swarming with men and officers of both sides, shaking hands and wishing each other a happy Christmas. So these men, a few days earlier, were killing each other, and now here they are meeting in a neutral, common ground for a game of football, right? Soccer. This is what we're talking about, a basic sanity, something that we all possess. And this idea comes from Tibetan teacher Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. He coined the term basic sanity. He also coined the term basic goodness, We can see a basic goodness here. So, what is our common ground? Where do we meet? In these polarizing times, so full of conflict, do we even know what that is anymore? So this, of course, is the creation of Adam, the central panel in the Sistine Chapel, painted by Michelangelo in 1508 to 1512. What does it mean to be human? What is the value of a human life? What is the best way to live this human life? How should we live together? How should we build a just society? Having the leisure time to contemplate questions like this, like what we're doing right now as a group of peers gathered together to think about things like this, was the height of achievement in ancient Greek culture. This is where the free men mainly gathered in the polis to discuss such things, to discuss philosophy, how to govern a society, what is justice, beauty. So having this leisure time is very valuable. And how do we spend it, right? It's the height of our freedom. And this is the philosophical life. Philo means to love, to tend to. And Sophia is the skill, the knowledge, the practical wisdom at its height, the transcendent wisdom of the divine. So through the philosophical life, we pursue, almost like a love, almost erotically, Sophia, to attain Sophia, to have a union with Sophia. That is the philosophical life, the love of Sophia. By embracing our life, by crafting oneself towards the ideal, by pursuing the beauty of Sophia, we become fully human. We begin to affirm life. We begin affirming humanity. And we can meet each other on the common ground of our shared humanness. This is humanism, a philosophical and cultural movement that emphasizes the value, dignity, and agency of all human beings. And at its core, humanism asserts that the human can use reason, ethics, and creativity rather than religious dogma and superstition to understand the world and to improve the human condition. This philosophy is the foundation of Western culture. It gave rise to human rights. It gave rise to democracy. It gave rise to all of the extraordinary philosophy and artwork like the one we're looking at in the West. The Greeks saw the human as a reflection of the cosmos, containing within the body divine proportions. They sought to discover these proportions, and they reflected that in their art and their architecture. And they saw that the human mind possesses extraordinary potential to develop in many ways, both towards the transcendent good and also towards unfathomable evil. We have the freedom to choose what we grow in the fertile field of the mind. It's a ground of pure potential, and it's our responsibility what we grow there. This humanism was reborn in the Renaissance, in the Italian Renaissance. It sparked a rebirth of these ideals through the translations of Ficino. He translated the Greek text and also Hermetic text, right? The Institute for Hermetic Studies, the Hermetic texts were brought back into Europe during this time, during the Renaissance. There's a revival of these values. It began in Italy and it spread throughout all of Europe, profoundly shaping education, art, politics, and religion till the current day. Beneath the surface of both the Greek and Renaissance humanism lies the metaphysical conviction that the human being carries within them a spark of the divine. That's what this central panel in the Sistine Chapel is about. Adam is receiving the animating spark. This is probably the painting of humanism, right? Containing that divine spark. And this was progressed by Hermeticism, Neoplatonism, and mystical strands of Christianity that deeply influenced the Renaissance art. Hermetic humanism is founded on the axiom, as above, so below, as below, so above, right? That shows this mirroring of the cosmos in the human being, right? So humanity is not separate from the divine order, but participates in it. So yes, there is a spiritual core to humanism. Today, modern humanism is mostly secular, but there is a spiritual core. That's why we have democratic values. That's why we have human rights. Is founded on this idea that there's something sacred within the human being, every human being. So the core ideas of Western humanism, of this common ground in the West that we've been able to meet on for thousands of years, is that humans are sacred because they reflect the cosmos. They are equal because they share the same divine root. And they are free because they carry within them the capacity to realize that divinity. This is the metaphysical humanism that offers the deepest foundation for unity, dignity, and universal brotherhood, not as a political ideal alone, but as a spiritual reality. It's a common ground. Now, this is a painting of Job by Bonnat, painted in 1880 in France. The East developed a different common ground than the West. They came at it through a different means. So the common ground in the East is dukkha, which is commonly translated as suffering, dissatisfaction, unsatisfactoriness. But as a practitioner, it's more like a vulnerability, like a survival response, a reflex, a tightening, an energetic closing to some situation. Right? So the first noble truth in Buddhism it declares that suffering is inescapable, right? It's a part of conditioned existence. But this is not because of an original sin. It's not because we fell from the divine, nor is it a test of our worth. It's just simply inherent in the nature of life. And life is marked by impermanence. There's nothing stable here. Our attachments, right? We get attached and we lose it, or we're adverse to things that come, we don't want them to be here. And our ignorance. All of this leads to inevitable suffering. So in this view, what unites humans and their philosophy isn't just limited to humans, but to all sentient beings, is not divinity, but this vulnerability of being alive, this fragility, a shared condition of impermanence, craving, and delusion. So rather than affirming that all humans are equal because they reflect God, Buddhism affirms that all beings are worthy of compassion because they suffer and they seek freedom from that suffering. This has led to this profound egalitarian ethic of the Bodhisattva, a person who vows to save all beings and free them from samsara. Through karuna, this profound compassion that arises from the belief in another, not in another's divinity, but just through the deep empathy with their suffering, right? And wisdom, prajna, they see that the self is empty of any fixed identity, so no being is superior or inferior. We're all equally illusory, right? And we're all equally capable of awakening. And I'm going to be a bit of an artist here. I thought, well, if I combine these, what do we get philosophically? And I think it's this is like Christ by Bonnat. We get the concept of Jesus as a philosophy, right? So when we take the Hermetic divine spark and the Buddhist, this shared suffering, this profound empathy for all beings, right? I think we get the Christ figure, especially when understood through a mystical or esoteric grounds rather than something strict, doctrinal, and theological, right? So this union of divinity and the struggle of being human brings us into a wider view, a shared common ground, a vast interconnection. And from this, the redeeming forces arises, lifting us up not as individuals, but through the recognition that our own freedom, our own end to suffering must be answered for all beings, right? This is important not just to realize, but even to believe because of the wars and the divisions that are tearing through the world today. We have to remember that we rise and fall together. that our suffering is shared, that our divinity is shared, and we touch the ground where peace becomes possible. United in this truth, the people will never be divided. So once again, that idea of order going all the way back to the first civilizations is balance. So of course, in my history, I was dealing with a lot, mental health wise. I was really suffering. I could not find basic sanity. I liked Eastern philosophy and I just went all in into Buddhism. So the lady in the red is Iten Shinyo. She was my Roshi when I started at the temple. And this is her Roshi, Azuma Roshi in Japan. And she sat me down, showed me the meditation posture, and I just stared at a wall and I breathed, and that was it. And she told me to sit in my emotions, just like a very troubled area of any city. You just sit there and don't do anything, just be present there. And that's what I did. And I had severe pain in my body, and I sweated, and I had anger, and it was horrible. But I did it for an hour a day. And anyone who's done Zen knows it's profoundly boring. It's one of the most boring spiritual paths. But boredom is extremely important. And in this tradition, there's different types of boredom. There's hot boredom, and that's what I was experiencing, this restlessness, this underlying restlessness. That was just me at that time. And maybe after 4 months of doing this an hour a day, I started cooling off. And there started being an emotional plateau. And I started realizing I kind of missed the drama. Was I just going to be neutral all the time now? And a lot of my students have said this, like, it's just kind of boring now. I'm just kind of, this is what you wanted. You wanted balance, and I got it. And they quit and they go screw it up again. They want the drama. So that's cool boredom. You start cooling off, and at this stage, you start realizing, I could be doing this. Why am I spending so much time sitting here staring at a wall? I could be doing this and that, or I got to pay these bills, or I got my girlfriend's mad at me. You start cooling off, and then maybe about a year and a half in, 2 years in, suddenly you just stop resisting it. You finally fall through the layers of boredom, and this stillness starts arising out of the body, this deep stillness. And this silence starts arising in the mind. You start having this clarity all the time. And this spaciousness, this you feel so contracted when you start, this spaciousness that starts growing. And then one day you really hit the ground, the common ground. I am. That's it. That's what you're supposed to witness. I am. But it's not the word, you just fall into this amness. It's like, we say sunshine, we always put the noun before the verb, but it'd be more accurate. Shine sun. Am I, this verb, this shining. I am. Just this luminosity. And then you just sit down and you rest in this ground of your being, this luminosity I am. And that's the innate basic sanity that all of us can find if we can just cool off, if we can go through those layers of boredom, these things we don't want to feel and think and experience about ourselves, so we can just cool off, we can get there. So with that said, let's take our posture, the hieratic pose, where we're seated, our legs are in a 90-degree angle. We're going to let our palms just fall down on our thighs naturally. Our back is erect, but not too tight. We're going to let our stomach relax and open. We're going to let our chest relax and open. Let that tension in the shoulders fall. And we're just going to tuck our chin slightly so that our neck is aligned. And we're just going to softly gaze out in front of us, not focusing on anything. And bring your awareness to your stomach. And let's put our focus there on our breath. Down low around our belly button, the rise and fall. And really settle into your body. People don't spend enough time in this. Feel the solidity of the body. Feel the stability. Feel the ground below you, the chair below you supporting you. It's constant. There's no thoughts in the body. There's no worries in the body. Just really settle down. And as thoughts come, as all this restlessness, this hot boredom or cool boredom comes, we're going to note it and just return to our stomach, this rise and fall of the breath over and over again. Just letting it be. Whatever there is, we're just going to let it be. I'm going to read to you as you meditate some Sufi poetry from Rumi, written in 1244. Colorless, nameless, free, that's what I am. When will I see myself as I am? Put mystery in the middle. Where is the middle? In the middle I am. And this silver tongue stream in me. When will it grow still enough to know? The streaming stillness I am. The ocean I am, drowned in the ocean I am. Shoreless, boundless, wonderful. Don't look for me in this world or that world. Both worlds are lost in the world I am. A luminous void beyond profit and loss. Wonder abounds beyond fear of loss and lust for gain. My soul, you are my true eyes. What are my eyes in the invisible, visible I am? Then what do I call you? Silence. Words can't name what I am. Then praise the wordless speaker I am. I race through emptiness, footless like the moon. Praise the footless runner I am. Why are you running? To reach me. Settle in the placeless place I am. Settle in the nowhere everywhere I am. I saw the supreme sea, treasure, and gold mine I am. All right, let's slowly come back. Slowly open our eyes. Feel free to stretch. Oh. All right, Ron, Till, you there? How you doing, Ron? Oh, all right, Reem. The floor is yours. Would you like to make any responses to that?
Wow. You brought up so many different topics. The one that really hit me was Christ consciousness. And I know you and I have talked about this in the past, and it was for me when I started exploring the concept of Christ consciousness that my anxiety disappeared, like really disappeared. And um, normally, where we are right now with, um, you know, the United States striking Iran last night, I would normally be beside myself. I would normally be catastrophizing and be in a place of thinking about all the worst case scenarios. Um, I'm really truly unbothered. And if I could have told my more anxious self a few years back that this is where I'd be today, I would have never believed it. I would not have believed it. I would not have thought that I would ever be living a single day in my life without anxiety, in many ways crippling me and affecting my life. Um, I was someone who has had panic attacks in the past, um, anxiety attacks as well. The difference between panic attacks and anxiety attacks are with panic, you think it's a medical situation and it comes out of nowhere. And it really very much looks like a heart attack. Anxiety attacks, you're anxious and you're feeling it. And before you know it, you start hyperventilating and you're like, oh no, I've lost control of my body. But at its core is anxiety. Both are very scary. Um, but often people with panic attacks wind up in hospital settings, not realizing that what's happening to them is looks very much like a heart attack, and it's very hard to tease the two apart. So as a result, I work in a school setting during the day, and I have a private practice in the evenings. But during the day, I usually start off, especially long weekends, in the nurse's office, because that's where a lot of the students will come because they have these physical ailments and these physical things that they're more aware of than their emotional state. Here in the United States and in the West, um, as a culture, we tend to separate the two. We tend to separate our physical health from our emotional health. Um, in other places, they're connected. They're very much connected. And I think we're moving in that direction here as well. Um, and that's really where a lot of my work has kind of gone, a lot of my focus has gone, is to kind of helping heal people in different ways. Um, I am certified in Reiki, along with being a licensed mental health counselor and a school psychologist. Um, and I also was taught by my father something called Rokya. Rokya sounds a lot like a Reiki, and it looks very much the same. It's, uh, primarily comes from the Middle East, out of the Islamic tradition. And it's a type of hands on healing. And my father was taught by his parents, who were taught by their parents, and it goes back 7 generations. And through this type of energy work that I do, I can feel what other people are feeling. And that's the beauty of hardship, is that it gives us compassion. And you know, in so many ways, we judge the events in our lives as being positive or negative, when really what we would consider challenges are truly opportunities for growth. And that's something that the Stoics would say. I call them OGs, opportunity for growth. And it's usually what I say when something like that happens.
Amor
Oh,
fati,
and it's amor fati also. Yes, absolutely.
embracing fate.
Embracing fate and loving fate, not fighting it, um, taking it in, appreciating it for what it is. And, that's where I'm at in my life. And it was through the concept of Christ consciousness that I got here. And so I was hoping that you could explain Christ consciousness, because you explained it to me so beautifully. And the way it came to me, actually, was kind of interesting. I've done a lot of different types of somatic um, healing practices for myself in the last couple of years. I've done a lot of healing. I've done traditional therapy in the past, but as Bessel van der Kolk wrote in his book, um, which is The Body Keeps the Score, a New York Times bestseller, he talks about how talk therapy really isn't the most effective way to deal with a lot of our trauma, to deal with the hardships that we have, because our body keeps those things. You know, there's in the East, they've known that for a very long time. They talk about Tai Chi and moving the energy, finding the energy and moving that. And if energy gets stuck, that's when we have dis-ease or disease. And we're recognizing that now here in the West. And we have recognized it in the past in many different ways. And then there was kind of a movement to get away from it, particularly with the Flexner report that happened in the United States and this move toward more, you know, everything that can heal you comes in an orange bottle with a white lid type of mentality. But now we're recognizing, and people like Bessel van der Kolk put it out there, we're recognizing that our issues lie within our tissues. And in order to get those issues out, we have to do different methods. So I did a lot of different types of somatic practices myself, such as breath work, which, you know, we produce DMT, very powerful hallucinogen that's actually natural and human made. And we produce it when we're born, we produce it when we die, we produce it when we have seizures or when we pass out or when we stop breathing. Near-death experiences, we produce a great deal of it. And during those experiences with breath work, I had all of these very spiritual events occur. And, you know, shout out to Sacred Ember in upstate New York in Newburgh. They really helped me significantly with being able to heal and get out of this place of anxiety and grief. And I saw them and the idea of you need to look into Christ consciousness came up. And my father, who had passed away, came to me during one of these breathwork experiences. And he took me by the hand and he said to me, Rheam, would you like to meet Jesus? And my father was a devout Muslim man. And of course, Muslims do believe in Jesus, but it wasn't what I was expecting him to say to me. And he brought me to meet Jesus. And I was just in awe of Jesus. And Jesus didn't have a face. I could see like the dark areas beneath his eyes. But I knew that I needed to learn more. I needed to get closer. I needed to understand more. And the term Christ consciousness kind of was made aware to me at that time. So whenever anything spiritual like that happens, I call upon my friend and guide. Um, Josh, I gotta tell you what just happened. You have to tell me, what does this mean? What is Christ consciousness? I need to learn about it. And enter Josh.
Um, some people think that Christianity may have come out of the Essenes, which was a Jewish sect, a group. Um, all through Western culture, there was mystery schools, these kind of occulted groups that passed on sacred knowledge, and the Essenes were one of these groups. But one way to think about Christ is as the example of an adept, right? Someone who's achieved everything they're teaching, right? So more of a symbol, right, of something that's achievable for everyone rather than this external figure. Um, and in the Jewish tradition, if you notice, I pointed out Tiferet on the tree of life, that central point, that balancing point. That in the Jewish tradition would be Christ consciousness. This that you've raised your consciousness to a point where you're balanced, right? You're no longer suffering, like let's say in the Buddhist tradition. Someone who's enlightened in the Buddhist tradition no longer suffers, right? but they feel pain, right? But they're not suffering the pain. They're no longer making stories about how something's going. They're no longer generating that thing. And also, these people have dedicated their life to service, right? To now that they've achieved balance, now that they've worked through these problems and overcome it, they're not off the hook, right? Like we said in the lecture, your freedom is related to everyone else's freedom. Your end of suffering is related to everyone else's. You have a responsibility. There's an interconnection. You're not a separate thing, right? So once you've done that, you then go out and help as you can. Um, through a deep compassion, through a love, not a martyrdom. It's through a deep compassion and love. You've ended your suffering, but you still feel the suffering of others deeply, probably more profoundly than a normal person. You really feel that pain and suffering. You're really affected by it, but you're able to maintain balance. You're able to see the world as it is, realistically. Um, so it's an achievable state of consciousness, and through Western esoteric wisdom, it's a workable path to achieve that, right? It's the same. It's you could switch the name out Jesus for Bodhisattva or any of these other things in another tradition, you'll find it there.
Mhm.
Um, so I think when you have these experiences like Rheam was talking about, lucid dreams or out-of-body experiences, whatever, your mind is externalizing through a symbology these different energetic aspects, right? So through the associations, right? I know you like Jung, Rosalie, through this unconscious symbolism in the culture, you would experience that concept through the symbol that you have for it, right? Um, so Reem seeing this figure was a way of that subconscious mind communicating to her in a way that she can comprehend it, right? Someone from a different culture without that would perceive that level of consciousness as a different symbol, right? So it's someone who's achieved a state of balance, someone who has understood the interconnection, has understood the nature of self, that there's no fixed self, that it's changeable, it's malleable. They've witnessed the I am, this level of being that's in every sentient being, right? And they dedicated their life to service in some way. It can be, and people who I've met who are real adepts are very mundane. They're not very flashy. They look like boring office people, but you if you get to know them, if you get to see how they live their life, they're absolutely extraordinary. A lot of people that have the glam and are very sellable are probably not it. You wouldn't ever recognize an adept, someone who's gone that far. And even Chogyam Trungpa, who we talked about, when he came to America to survive the Tibetan tradition because the communists were killing all of them in Tibet, his city was burned down. They were hunted in the desert. Um, he came here, he decided not to wear the Tibetan robes because that's what everyone wanted to see. They wanted to see the glamorous Tibetan who could levitate and do stuff with his mind. That's what the people wanted. So he dressed in a suit and he spoke in a British accent. It was a big letdown. He was very boring. He smoked weed. He drank alcohol with them. He slept with their girlfriends. He was just another hippie in the 70s. But but despite that, he communicated profound esoteric wisdom. Um, I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe.
that was perfect. That was really for me a huge turning point, and really the focus of um, understanding that within every human being there is divinity. There is, something wonderfully beautiful and pure, and that connects us all. And there's a similar concept, kundalini. Every one of us has that divine light within us, and it's up to us to practice to spread that light, to share that light, to provide more light. um, wherever we are. And when we want for our neighbors what we want for ourselves, that's Christ consciousness. That's being able to understand that we are all connected. That's helped me see that I don't have enemies. I have compassion for people who have hurt me, people who have intentionally gone out of their way to try to cause me great pain. Um, I now look at that as an opportunity for growth. This is someone who's showing me where my triggers are, and this is where the crossover is in psychology. When we have these events that trigger us, that cause us to go into this high level of anxiety or stress, we have an opportunity to do the work there in that place. And you were talking about feeling your feelings and being in this place where we accept them. Absolutely, 100%. That's the goal of trauma work, is to be able to feel what it is that we're avoiding, because true emotions can only last for so long. Usually between a minute and a half, that emotion fades if you lean into it and if you truly feel it. But you can spend decades running away from certain feelings, particularly the feeling of shame. And shame is the underlying feeling behind addiction. And that's something that has become, you know, very, very prevalent in recent years with the pandemic. The addiction levels skyrocketed, the anxiety levels skyrocketed, depression skyrocketed. Uh, we have right now this opportunity for ascension, opportunity for growth. But there are people who are feeling this discomfort and are trying to quiet it down through the use of substances or through vices, through materialistic things. Let me move to a different zip code. Let me buy a bigger house. Let me get a different car. Let me do all of these things, buy stuff to kind of ease the ache. And the stuff never works. It's never about the stuff. And that
Hedonia.
hedonia, yes, hedonism, exactly. And but it takes a long time for us to go through this stage in life to recognize that that hole is always going to be there. That no amount of stuff will fill that hole. And in that same session, that breathwork session where I got information about, okay, find out more about Christ consciousness, I was also told everything will be okay. Everything will be all right, in a way that I truly believed it. And I've never felt fear since that moment. It was a huge turning point in my life. No anxiety at all. And, it's my goal to now help other people get to that place, to get to a place where you understand and you believe that the things that happen are things that are happening for you, not to you. And even though it's a very small semantic shift, what happens to me versus what happens for me, it's a huge change in perspective. And when we change our perspective, everything changes. Like Wayne Dyer used to say, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, right? If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And there's a wonderful healer now. His name is Peter Crone, Crone. And he talks about you know, what we currently have isn't an epidemic of depression and anxiety. We have an epidemic of perspective. We lack perspective. And that's really what the key is to reducing fear and anxiety. And it's funny, I was saying before to Rosalie that one of the things that I would like to talk about is how do we get out of a place of fear? How do we get back to basic sanity? And you know, what are some of the things that prevent us from being there? Well, anxiety for one, worrying, being in the future instead of being in the present. So a mindfulness practice helps us. Gratitude. There is a highway in the brain, so to speak, that can either be have enough space for the anxiety bus to pass or the gratitude bus. It's kind of like the Amalfi Coast, if you've ever been there. There's like only so much room on this roadway. But if you fill that with gratitude, you will not feel anxiety. You will not. You absolutely cannot be anxious if you're in a place of gratitude. So that's something that I teach my clients. I teach them how to have a gratitude practice. Think of three things you're grateful for. And then think of three more things that you're grateful for later in the day. Try to think of five right before you go to bed. This was something that I used to do with my own children. We used to do what's called gratitude. We used to call it gratitude. Mom, can we do gratitude now? Okay, yes, let's do it. I would go into their bedrooms and I would sometimes I would have the children get together, but they especially enjoyed it when I did it one on one. And it was my favorite part of the day because it amazed me what they were grateful for. I could have had a great big day full of outings. We're going to go down into the city from upstate. We're going to go to the museum. We're going to go to get the best cookies in New York City. We're going to try the best pizza. We're going to, all of these things packed, running, trying to catch this bus and trying to catch that train and all of those things. At the end of the day, I would say, what was your favorite thing about today? And the things that they would tell me blew my mind, almost without exception, because it wasn't the things that I was thinking they would be grateful for. It was something else. So, for example, my son Aiden one day told me that what he liked most was that there was a woman who said to him, "Aw, honey, you just have the best smile." And then he smiled, and she's like, "Oh, and you have dimples too? No fair." And he remembers that he was probably 6 at the time. He's now he'll be 19 at the end of the month, and that's his favorite compliment that he's ever received. And that was a thing, not running around New York City going to all of these places. The fact that someone took a moment to talk to him and she saw him, he felt seen in that moment, he felt appreciated in that moment. And it's moments like that that are really what joy is made of. And you string enough of those together, you have happiness wherever you go. And I often tell my kids there's only two things that I want from them, that I expect from them. Um, and that is to be grateful. Because when they show me that they can be grateful, and it warms my heart like nothing else when my kids are grateful, when they show me that they're grateful, I know that they will be okay in this world because no matter what, if you have gratitude, you have the ability to be happy. You have the ability to see the best in any given situation. And that will truly protect you from feelings of anxiety and depression. The other thing that I say that I expect from them is kindness. And there's a difference between being nice and being kind. Being nice is what society expects from you. It's people pleasing. If you're a nice person, you please a lot of the people around you. If you are kind, you are doing it without the expectation of getting something back. It's not about a zero sum game. It's not about a transaction. It's not about, I'll, scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It's about, I want to give. I want an opportunity to give to you. And that's something that we know helps with anxiety and depression. Kindness, being kind. When you focus on somebody else, you improve your position, your emotional capability, you improve your well-being. So kindness for me, and I tell my kids, if you're kind, you will change the world. You will make it a better place. So with those two things, just those two things, if you have gratitude, you'll never be anxious. You won't be fearful. You'll be focused on your blessings. And with kindness, you will change the world and improve it. And it will also protect you from anxiety and depression. And, there are some other things that we know are very, very helpful for removing fear from our lives. And that is living in a way, in a righteous way, where you can look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day And that's a goal that I set for myself when I wake up in the morning. I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror at night and make sure that I did everything that I could do, to help other people, to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. If I said something that I thought was funny but landed not so well with somebody else, I'm going to send them a text, usually at 9 o'clock. Hey, I said that thing and I saw your face. Are you okay? And then being, aware enough to, when they say, you know what, that really did embarrass me, to not say to them, oh, well, that wasn't what I meant. Instead, owning it and saying, you're right, that would have been very embarrassing. Um, and I don't know why I said that. I really apologize. And then that gives an opportunity to clear that, so that then I can live every day knowing that I did the best that I could. And then I don't have shame. I don't have embarrassment. I don't have debts to other people. I did the best I could. That's one.
Good questions. Yeah.
Yeah. And then another is being generous, giving in spirit, and making sure that people um, have what they need, just checking in. And it could be as simple as saying, hey, are you okay today? I saw, you didn't answer your phone earlier. Is everything all right? Um, and then the other is only fearing God, only being nervous about that, because there are things that are well out of our control. And it goes back to amor fati again, where we embrace the things that happen to us. Some of the best things in my life have come out of tragic situations. My awakening, my being able to, heal others, all of those abilities for me to connect with people with anxiety, with depression, people who are, have eating disorders, who are suicidal, who are struggling with their identity. All of those things I have compassion for, because I know what it's like to not be accepted. I know what it's like to feel othered. I know what it's like to be on the outside. And those things that I thought made my life difficult actually enriched my life. So that was a lot to go over all at once, but I want to take some time and get some reflections, questions, um, concerns, thoughts, shares.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I should go first. But yeah, no, I mean, it's it rings true. It's just that I do find that I'm often conflicted by two things simultaneously, like having that. Well, I mean, I know that might refute in part what you said, but I do find that that I'm grateful for things, and yet I'm anxious and frustrated by other things at the same time. And might not be the same things, um, but I feel like I can be grateful that I'm able to create and do something in a given day, that I have that chance and that ability. Again, I'm upset that my toilet got clogged, and now I have to go get my hands dirty and deal with that. It's and be resentful about that. Yes, it's in hindsight, it's a learning opportunity and ability to get better at my plumbing skills, or my ability to be practical and assisting. But in the moment, it's very frustrating and annoying, especially if it takes away from my time to be creative and do something that I want to do, that where I really feel like I'm getting traction of the time that I'm using, and benefit, of being here. Um, so yeah, it's it's both at once. Yeah, you can say like the overall positive, at the end of the day, but it's not easy. And as far as the interconnections of people, the one monkey wrench in the works that I think tends to make things tough in the world is pride. You know, everybody wants has a desire for pride, and you kind of get your anxiety and your desire to love and to be loved caught up in that, and it's hard to extradite that and without pulling in elements of both the others. You know, you know, I like to try to be kind, you know, and assist where I can. But on the other hand, it's like if I don't have myself, established where I feel confident that I can do something right before um, giving, you know, uh, praise or commendation to somebody else, I'll feel like I don't want to do that. So I'll still hold the door open for somebody and do the things that you said about the expected niceties of day to day. But to be kind at that point, um, aside from the moments that I'm able to get free from myself and do some things where I'm reminded, I guess, of my older self. To get free from myself in the now is the one that you said is anticipating the future is very tough. If I can get back to that now where I'm creating and feel like I'm actually doing stuff with my time, then that's great. But the other stuff makes in wanting to have stuff done that I feel good about, and then use that to help somebody or to benefit them is a tough balance a lot of times.
Well,
So
thank you, Ron. That was fantastic. You hit on a number of different things, and I hope I can do it justice by responding. But one of the things that you mentioned was, it's hard when the practical matters of life jump in. You're working on this project, you're doing great things, you get this sense of accomplishment from, you want to be proud of the work you're doing. And then I'm going to use your example, the toilet gets clogged. So what do I do? Well, what's to say, Ron, that you won't be proud of yourself when you unclog that toilet? That's an opportunity for pride.
yeah.
Yeah.
In hindsight, when it's done and it's it's in the past, then you can say, okay, all right, that was a benefit, and now I can get back to what I was doing.
Well, not only that, but I would argue that maybe that clogged toilet might actually give you time to disconnect from what you're working on, and you might be inspired to do something entirely different, to get a move in a
That's
different direction, right? So
that's true.
sometimes the things that we classify them as interruptions, but it's our judgment on that thing that is about, that's what our perspective is, right? We look
Yeah,
at it as an interruption. That may not be part of the interruption. That might actually be where the genius comes in, right?
yeah,
Like think about what is his name? Archimedes, and how he was trying to solve this problem of how does he determine whether someone who took gold from the king was using all of that gold to make the crown or if they were mixing other metals with it. How do I figure this out? Well, he was racking his brain. It wasn't until he decided to take a break and go take a bath that when he went into the bathtub, the water rose and he recognized density, right? Eureka, I got it. So, I love your example because it takes us right back to the bathroom where Archimedes had this fantastic moment. But, that is to say that the things that we sometimes think take us off of our path, our diversions, we will see them, oftentimes we'll classify them as failures. when in fact they were not failures at all. They were our path. That detour that you took, that was your path. That interruption, that was your path. The divorce you had that you weren't expecting, that was your path. And medical issues that threw you for a loop, part of your path. So that's the difference between judging the things in our lives that happen as happening to us and saying those things happened for us. I had an opportunity to feel like I was self sufficient because I had a terrible fear of mice. And shortly after my divorce, I was caught in a situation where there was a dead mouse in the basement. And that's where I did my laundry. So were my kids not going to have clean clothing, or what was the story? Oh, gee, opportunity for growth. What did I do? I decided that my son was about 10. My older son was about 10 at the time. I After doing some deep breathing and and getting the blood back into my brain, I said, aha, I will give him money to take the mouse out, but I will make sure that I am absolutely not freaked out when I say it. And I will make sure that I don't give him $100 because he'll know something's up. I'm going to give him $3 to take the mouse and put it into the garbage can. And it was probably one of my most genius moments of my life. And I just said, hey, Ryan, can you do me a favor? Can you? And he just looked at me and he's like, why can't you do it? I was like, I'm just giving you an opportunity to get $3. Oh, okay. Mouse in the garbage can, disaster averted,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I grew. And
yeah,
he came to my rescue.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's good. I guess. Yeah, I've actually had a situation with a mouse or two where I've had like traps down, and normally I would be of the mindset that what do I do? How do I deal with this? How would I But then like when I had an exterminator here, he was able to make it clear and say they very humanely put another trap on top of it, give it a quick bump with a hammer, just out of its misery. And then you put the whole thing with if you want to wear gloves or whatever, put the thing in a garbage can, tie it up, throw it down the trash chute, and that's it.
I couldn't even get within 10 feet of it. I was
Yeah,
paralyzed
yeah,
with fear.
yeah,
But my kid, he didn't know. And thankfully, I didn't transfer that phobia onto my child. I had the wherewithal to be like, I'm totally chill about this. I'm giving you an opportunity to earn $3.
yeah,
Best $3 I've ever spent in my life, by the way. But yeah, so that's the difference. And when we can shift our mindset from one of where the world works for me instead of things happening to me, we get out of this place of, victim. Because that is a place where we get a lot of sympathy and it feels good, but it's disempowering. It takes our power away. So if instead we go into this place of creative, you guys are all creative. Like, how many times can you think of situations where you didn't have the exact materials that you needed, so you came up with some other scenario or something else? I can tell you, I had a situation just yesterday where I had this outfit that I was planning on wearing for this event, and I went and it did not work. It did not work. And I could have gone into a panic. I'm going to be late and all of these things. No, it was time to be creative. I was going to use something else. And then that secondary outfit became far more amazing and creative, and it worked out better than that first one. So again, an opportunity for growth, minor, but those are the little things that give us the ability to feel proud of ourselves because, coming from my culture or background, these things are tests. And when you pass the test, you move up a step, you move up a step, you move up a step. And yeah, it's just a matter of going into it with a playful mindset, going into it with this idea of, oh, I have an opportunity to rise. And the bigger the mess, the better the clean. Like there is a woman, Marie Kondo. I don't know if you guys know her, but she used to do this thing where she would had this incredible organization system, and she would organize things, and people would be so embarrassed to have her come to their homes.
Yeah,
And she walked in one day to this home that belonged to somebody who was a hoarder. And I was like mortified for the person when I saw this on TV. I was like, oh my gosh, Marie Kondo's going to drop dead for sure. She did not. She looked at it and she said, oh, I love mess. And I thought, Marie Kondo loves mess? How can she love mess? Well, because she had that mindset of this gives me the opportunity for the highest possible return on investment, return on time that I put into it. This is going to be an amazing before and after. And she was able to see that. So, can't we do that with our lives? Can't we look at our lives and say, my life right now is kind of a big hot mess, a dumpster fire, but I'm going to turn it into like the best possible life ever. I'm going to be one of these people that they can make a TV show out of because I'm going to take challenge accepted and I'm going to turn it into look at the domain that I have created. And we have that opportunity. You, as artists, you do this all the time. You know, it's part of alchemy, right?
Mhm.
We alchemize a situation. We look at something and we transform it. We change it. We become creative in how we tackle it. Does that make sense?
yeah. So say everything, potentially has the ability to be turned into gold, based on how you roll.
Yes. We are all Midas, and then whatever we touch can turn into gold. It's just our mindset.
Yeah. It's hard. It's difficult though to roll with the punches and not put up a resistance if you're on a path trying to do something else. That's the catch. And,
100%. 100%. It's a habit. We have to break
yeah,
it. And it takes 11 times longer to unbreak a habit, to break a habit, than it does for us to start it to begin with. So
yeah,
for a lot of us, you know, I don't mean to simplify this and make it sound very, very easy. It's not. It takes work.
yeah,
Uh, but it's in those places. It's just like going to the gym. I'll tell you, what's
yeah,
my least favorite thing to work on? Shoulders. Why? Because you can see why. Because for me, that's my weakest area. I'll do abs all day, no problem whatsoever. But that's not where I need the work. Where I need the work is where I'm weakest. And that's what life gives us. Life gives us opportunities to strengthen the areas where we're weakest.
yeah. Without, I know that it also goes hand in hand with the idea that you need to ignore the physical emotion that your body's telling you to go with your mental emotion, knowing that it's your mental, not emotion, your mental thought, your understanding that something else is as a positive, or you're not required to be a slave to the mindset that you've had in the past when you felt something similar in the past.
100%. 100%. And I'll tell you something from the Sufi path. They say that when you have a reassuring thought, that comes from God. That is love. When you have a thought that puts you in a frantic place, be careful of that thought. That is not from God. That is not divine. That is not your friend. But which thought do you think we as human beings usually run with? The latter, right? Right. So it's a matter of increasing the thoughts that we have, because who's in control of our thoughts at the end of the day? Us, right? We get to choose. We get to choose which thoughts we feed and which thoughts we starve, right? So we have to have a little bit more discernment with what's positive and what's negative. And instead of saying, oh my gosh, this is going to be a disaster, this is going to be a mess, I'm not going to find a parking spot, I'm going to be late. No, if I don't find a parking spot, it's because something better is going to happen. It's because there's an opportunity for growth. I know Josh is like,
I was like,
no,
you
find a
better get
spot.
her soon.
Yeah, just this morning. I'm like, I'm
It's
fine.
hard,
It's gonna be awesome. But like it's a mindset, it takes practice. It absolutely takes practice.
it's hard. back to the apartment spot. I can understand. It's certainly in the moment, not to be saying, well, oh, this is going to be, a lesson in the future. It's that to not be really
Mhm.
upset about that. That's very difficult.
Right. And to know what's within our control and what's not. And there's an old Chinese proverb, don't worry about the things you can't change because you can't change them.
This is so stoic. All everything you're saying is stoic.
Right?
Okay.
Don't worry about the things you can change because you can change them. This is Stoicism. This is also in Islam, we call it tawakkul. Tawakkul is the ability to understand that we can put in the effort, but the outcome is not ours. The outcome belongs to God. And Islam means submitting to the will of God. And there's a similar concept in
Fuck.
yeah, amor fati in Stoicism, but also in Christianity and in Judaism, which is not my will, thy will. And it's that idea of I don't get to control this. And anytime we put ourselves in a position where we play God, we suffer, right? When we think that what we do is going to be able to control everything and I'm going to make sure what winds up happening without fail. I was going to work one day and I'm like, today I'm going to be early. And anyone who knows me knows that there's something called Rheam time, which is about between 15 minutes and half an hour later than the time. So people adjust their time accordingly so I can get there on time. But this one day I was like, you know what? I'm forcing the situation. I'm going to get to work on time. I'm going to prove to myself I can do it one day. Well, guess what? Rheem gets into her car, makes sure everything is done. I pull out of my garage, and what happens? I get caught. My one side of the car gets caught. I rip off the entire front end of my car. Rip off the entire front end of my car to prove that I have control over what? Timing. Have I ever had control over timing? I was born 20 minutes late, and I'll tell you how that's possible. Because I'm one of twins, and the second of twins needs to be born within 1 minute of the other twin, or else you wind up losing oxygen and nutrients through the placenta. They had to revive me. I literally died before I was born because I was late being born. And since then, I've been late at everything. Why that day I decide I have control over this? Well, now I've got a front end that's hanging off my car to prove to me that, you know what, Reem, you're not in control. And I laugh because it's an opportunity for growth. I learned my lesson.
Yeah. I certainly think, as Josh will tell you, I certainly can relate to the being like part of.
Okay.
Yeah, always runs late.
Honestly,
Yeah, but
every class.
it, in, in my case, I think it relates to a deeper problem that I just gotta nip. I have to. I'd say nip in the bud, but it's more like I have to like overhaul. But But yeah, no, it's as far as trying to just do like a quick fix. Yeah, no, that definitely won't work. And,
Right. Right. We can't force time. Time is not something that we as human beings have control over.
yeah,
We can't force um, certain people to be in our lives. We can't force ourselves to look like a certain thing that we weren't designed to look like. And all of these struggles, what does that lead to? It leads to eating disorders. It leads to stalking people. It leads to a lot more problems if we try to force something. Isn't it better to accept it and to say, okay, this is my opportunity for growth? What is the lesson? What is the lesson here? And as a mystic, I say that, but as a psychologist, I say that also. There's this incredible, you would be interested in this, Rosalie, you probably already know, rational emotive behavior therapy. Albert Ellis, who is hysterical, he passed away. And he came up with this whole concept of it's not the consequence, it's not the life event, it's not the outcome that upsets us. It's our thoughts about that outcome that upset us. And if we can change the thoughts, then we change our emotion. We can't change the outcome. So that's another way to look at it. That's through psychology, right? So there's the mystical way of looking at it. There's the Stoic way of looking, the Sufi mystic way that I talked about, tawakkul. Tawakkul is our ability to understand that the outcome is not within our control, and that God's plan, the divine plan, is a better plan than anything that we can conceive of, because our ability is limited, our foresight is limited, right? But there is the unlimited who can plan for us way better than we can. And anytime we say, what if, we say in the Sufi tradition and in Muslim tradition, what if are words that belong to the devil, because we are not going like, and the truth is the would have, could have, should have, those can tear us apart. Those can send us on a downward spiral. What do those give us? Anxiety, depression, they really are our enemies. I used to think that the worst feeling in the world was, depression or sadness, and then I realized it's self-pity. Self-pity takes you on the express train to depression. It really does. And when you find yourself in a place of depression, what you have to think is, I'm thinking too much about me. What can I do for somebody else? What can I do for somebody else? What kindness can I show to somebody else? You make somebody else's day, that makes your day. And that's the way to break depression. And that's what I teach.
Yeah, wasn't it Robert Ellis that said like people are either bullshit, chicken shit, or shitless? Like the different ways to describe like anger and anxiety. Oh, and like you're shooting yourself.
Yeah, you're shitting yourself. You
Yeah.
mustn't masturbate. Yeah, he had
Mhm.
a lot of these really great little things. Albert Ellis, he was great. He was fantastic. Don't shoot on yourself. Yeah, and he used like this shock language. He was kind of like the Howard Stern of psychologists in a lot of ways, where he just kind of like broke it open, and people were like, "Oh, this isn't what I expect." But he was right on. Right on. And he did an amazing thing where he charged people $5 to go into his institute in Manhattan and, share it, what was going on in their lives, and students. And that was one of the things that we did. I went to school, Marist College, and a bunch of us went down to the city, to the Ellis Institute, and we saw him. And he was in his 90s at the time, but didn't he have a much younger, hotter partner, right? Isn't that always the way? And so, anyhow, he had the first person who raised their hand and volunteered and went up said, I'm really depressed. And he's like, why are you depressed? And he said, because my mother died 17 days ago. And all of us are looking at each other. We're like, how is Albert Ellis gonna, talk him out of this? Like, how do you make this look good? Right? And he said to him, I'm sorry for your loss. Even he had compassion. And he said, but maybe it's not so much of a loss. And we were all like, what? What's he going to do? And he started asking the man, was it expected or unexpected? And he said, no, it was expected. Well, what had happened to your mother? Well, she had, a number of different health issues, and she was in the hospital for a long time. So it was just a matter of time. They knew it was there. Oh, so then you were able to be by your mom's side? Yes, I was. You were able to say goodbye? Yes, I was. Was she suffering? Yes, she was. So she was in a lot of pain? Yes, she was. So 17 days ago, your mom's suffering and pain ended, and you had an opportunity to say goodbye. And just like that, Albert Ellis took this man from being in a place of feeling like his life was over to recognizing the positive in having lost his mom 17 days ago. And he said, maybe you should see it, instead of seeing it as you losing your mother, as your mother moving on to a better place. Because is she suffering now? No, she's not. And what would you rather have for your mother? Would you rather have her here with you, or would you rather have her not suffering? Mind blown. The stuff that this man was doing back then, this was in the late 90s. And it was incredible. incredible stuff. But it's not that different from detachment, from tawakkul, from amor fati. These are all like way before the 90s. These are all like year 1200. Lao Tzu, when he was talking about, you know, the only way you can be happy is to be in the present. This is this is stuff that we have figured out, but we've forgotten. And now it's time to remember again who we are and why we're here.
Yeah, it's implemented in the present to to bring back so that we're living it rather than just having it as a as philosophy.
Right, right. Now we just have to practice. We have to practice getting there. One of the ways that we practice is by leaning into our feelings. If you start to feel ill, you're feeling sick, maybe you have anxiety and it kind of manifests as having like GERD, or reflux, or you have an ulcer or something to that effect. What can you do? Well, sit down and feel it. What's happening in your body? Where in your body do you feel that emotion? What's going on? Okay. All right. It's in the pit of my stomach. All right. Lean into it. Allow it. What is that feeling? It's fear. Fear. What's behind that feeling of fear? Well, it's actually feeling like I'm going to have my life end because of this disastrous event that just occurred. Okay, so I'm fearful that my life will end. And then you speak to the fear and you say, you are welcome here. This is fear and you are welcome. This is fear, you are part of me. And this is as a psychologist, but we also do this in spiritual healing. You welcome that feeling, and usually within about 90 seconds, that fear begins to dissipate because you're not fighting against it. You're not trying to get something in your hands to forget about what's going on in your gut. No, you're dealing with it. You're allowing it. And that is how we heal. We heal by feeling it. So you have to feel it to heal it, we say, right? But if we avoid it, are we going to deal with it? No, I'll tell you, I've been avoiding my dishes at home for the last 12 hours. Are they getting themselves done? No, they're not. The things that we avoid don't get taken care of. It's the things that we put attention to. We take care of them. So we have to take care of our feelings. Our feelings are not bad, by the way. They are our gift to understanding ourselves, to knowing ourselves, to know thyself, right? We our feelings actually, especially anger, which for many women, we are kind of trained not to feel. I went to this amazing divine feminine rage experience yesterday. Oh my goodness, it was spectacular. But I'm like, I don't know if I should go because I'm such a happy person now. I'm like, I'm not feeling any, but I'm like, there's got to be rage in there somewhere. I go to this rage exercise. Amazing human beings who do this. Fantastic experience. I'm taking a yoga mat and I'm screaming at people who have wronged me and beating the ground with it. And eventually I'm realizing I'm not feeling so great in my body. My throat is beginning to hurt. My back, I can feel it today, actually walking here. I could feel it in my back and my legs, but at the time I could only feel it in my upper body, my shoulders. And so I'm like, all right, maybe not so much with the yoga mat. Instead, I started just on my own, started yelling, thank you, I forgive you, thank you, I love you. And there's a incredible philosophy, Hawaiian philosophy, and I don't know that I'll say it right, but it's Honopono, where you say, you've heard of it, Ron?
No,
You,
no, that sounds interesting. No,
yeah, it's this incredible philosophy, where you say, I love you, thank you, I'm sorry, I forgive you. And forgive me, I'm sorry, forgive me. So you're saying these four things to the people who have hurt you, to the people that you have hurt, to anybody in your life, to objects, to events. You're saying it And it is clearing. It is extraordinarily clearing because we have these energy connections that connect us between people, especially people who are meaningful in our lives. And in order to break that energetic connection, we have to thank them and let them go, right? We have to be grateful for what they brought to our life, not just look at what they took, uh, but look at what they brought. Everyone has brought something to us, lessons, incredible lessons that we've learned. Some of the most amazing lessons that I've learned in my life, like I've said before, come out of hardship. The people in my life who really rub me the wrong way, those are the people that I've learned my greatest lessons from. So I am thankful for them. I thanked them during this rage, yelling at the top of my voice, but then that yelling turned into stomping, that turned into spinning, that turned into whirling, that turned into like my happy place. And it was amazing. It was wonderful. If you get the experience to do one of these rage workshops, do it. It's so much fun.
Very good.
All right, we have a few minutes left. It's almost 2. So if anyone has a short question, and then we'll do the dedication. Anyone have anything left?
Any comments to add? Experiences of, oh, me too. I've been there. That includes you, Josh. You could add something too if you'd like.
I can add something.
Sure.
Uh,
No pressure.
I'll say that um, all experiences are neutral. The truth is always neutral, right? Like I say all the time, we can say whether the light is on in my room or not, right? It's on. That's the truth. But then the story I say about that, based on how I grew up, based on my culture, based on whatever idiosyncratic thing I have, right? My habits, I will then make a story about that. And those stories are what drive the emotional energies. Every emotion, whether it's conscious or not, has a story in it. So, in meditation training, once you find that ground, that basic sanity, right? It's very neutral. And what we would do is we'll start telling ourselves a story to get the emotions rolling really hard, usually something that's toxic. And then when you start cutting down into that ground level, the I amness, the thoughts can't really happen there. So you cut the story out, and then you're just feeling this energy. And it's always in a location in the body. Sometimes it's in the stomach or the upper chest or the throat, and it kind of rolls around, and you do nothing to it. You just sit in that state, this neutral state, and you feel it kind of expand and dissipate. And we talked about this last time in the spaciousness. If you guys just meditate, I promise you'll get results. And you bring that through your day too. You start doing a walking meditation, and then you start doing this at your day at work, and you constantly are coming back to your breath and grounding yourself and relaxing, and you're cutting through those stories, right? And it becomes a habit, something you do automatically after you've done years of meditation. And yeah, that's what you're growing now, right? In that field of the mind. You're growing this virtuous things. We talked about generosity. You grow the virtue of generosity, of right attention, of compassion, of empathy. You can consciously train yourself to do these things and eliminate more and more of your suffering and become more and more of a beneficial person. I don't know. All right. I think we'll wrap up now. So we'll do the dedication now. So let's come back into our seat, settle into the body. And as I'm saying this, we can use our imagination to send out all of this to other beings. May this love flow outwards igniting the hearts of all beings, illuminating endless dawns. All right. Thank you guys for another great group event. And remember to send a gift to the IHS collection so that wisdom traditions like what we're doing here can continue. So thank you guys. We end the recording. Yes, say bye to Rheam.
Bye. So good to meet you guys.
Thank you
I
for
wish you well. I wish you kindness and gratitude.
likewise, likewise.